Afternoon, this is the collector on the corner. Today I'm going to do a video about swapping a 60 through 66 Chevrolet truck from a 6-cylinder to a V8. There was a video on YouTube. It is a pretty good video, but that guy didn't cover all of it. Maybe, he did it, but he didn't cover all the little ins and outs of it. Maybe he ain't got the props I got, but I've done that swap multiple times, so I want to show you on it. Starting out right here. This is a 66 6-cylinder with a factory automatic. If you'll notice, it's got these 2-point mounts here and one on the back. Right there's a set of holes.
Yep.
On each side. If this was a stick shift, you'd have a cross member across here.
Oh, okay.
And if it was a stick, it would have a bell housing like this. That's a V8 bell housing. That's the same from 55 to 59 and from 63 to 66. Same bell housing. The 6062 had the fork on this side, had hydraulic clutch linkage. So if you're going to change the 6062 over, what you'll have to do is get a bell housing like this, 63 up, and then you have to poke a hole in your floorboard. Come on here, Debbie.
I'm coming. Oh, sorry. Gonna pass you up.
Yeah, poke a hole in your floorboard for this pull rod.
Uh-huh.
And you can get the clutch pedal, linkage, and all that out of a 63 through 66 and put in there and change that over from a hydraulic master cylinder clutch release to stick shift. And you also have to get this bracket right here on the frame. On a 60 to 62 or automatic if you're going to V8. You have to get this frame bracket because your Z-bar hooks to that. You'll need that bracket. Okay. This rubber mount here bolts in right there. Right to that cross frame mount.
Okay.
Okay, on a 6-cylinder, this attaches to it. Got a pair of them.
Gotta hold your fingers still. Okie dokie.
You throw them away if you're putting a V8 in. You don't need them. Okay. They're only for a 6-cylinder.
No, you don't throw them away.
You just put these on there and that V8 engine will bolt right to them. It'll bolt right to them right there. And the truck mounts from 63 through 66 got a hole in the middle. There's a bolt comes up from underneath. I just happen to have one of them ultra rare.
Ultra rare.
Yep. Whoa. Hard to find.
Well, you found one.
Well, yeah, but I'm 71 years old. Been messing with this since I was a little kid. And I've seen these in a junkyard somewhere and got them one time.
Okay.
This is for 60 to 62 V8.
Okay.
The 6-cylinders had a big old deal that come up in front of the motor and they mounted it at the very front of the engine. But if you can find a set of them, you can put them in there. But you ain't got to. You can use these 63, 66, and you put them in the rear set of holes on the frame. This front hole, people will tell you for this, or that. And the only time I've ever seen that front hole used is on the passenger side with a 292 V8. And when it does that, in the one on the passenger side on the 292, it's a different bracket even. And they did that to clear the fuel pump on that 292 engine. But this is the rod that'll come down out of the cab. It pulls up, the clutch.
Will you hold your rod still?
Okay. And it hooks to the Z-bar. It hooks this Z-bar. This little bracket right here it fits on that frame bracket. And it's got two flat sides on this nut. You can't hardly see them in there, and that tightens up. And then on the engine side, use this piece right here.
Hold still. Okay. Okay.
It fits in right there. On the 6-cylinder, the original 6 with a stick had this apparatus on them for that Z-bore. And this rod right here is the one that goes back to your clutch fork.
Ah.
And the rod coming down from the engine, it fit right there.
I've had to get out and unstick it when I got it in the 3 on a tree stuck in 2 gears. I'd have to get out. And
them 3 on a tree,
had to wiggle
they get wore out. And you get up there, and if you don't hold back on that shifter and go just right, you'll get it jammed in 2 gears. You have the first gear and second gear at the same time. And Debbie got to be expert raising the hood up and getting out there and lining them shifters up.
Yep.
She got to be expert at doing that.
I used to do
Okay, your V8 trucks from the factory. Here's a little 6-cylinder radiator. See, this 6-cylinder. That's a radiator for this. Maybe even one came off this truck. I don't know. It fit right there. The V8's had a big radiator right there.
Well,
that's how the V8 Chevrolet
horsepower.
truck. Not in too good shape. It's like all of them. It's an old used radiator. It's no good. You need to buy a new one.
I think it's got some JB Weld on it over there.
These are rare as hinge teeth too. The 60s through 66 V8 Chevrolet trucks had a fiberglass fan shroud. Fit back there behind there.
Looks plastic to me.
This fiberglass. That's in good shape.
I'll take your word for it.
I happen to own 2 of them. It's all on. And
okie dokie pokey.
They used a rig like this. This is a pipe. They use this pipe for the top hose to go down to the engine.
That's your plumbing pipe, ain't it?
Nowadays, you could buy you a real good aluminum aftermarket radiator. Put your electric fan on there, you'd be golden.
Yep.
And you either have to use a set of headers, or you need ram's horns exhaust manifolds. See that right there on the passenger side? Go straight down. This is off of a 65 Chevrolet car, what this is off of.
Okay.
But this one on the driver's side swoops back. It's off a Chevrolet 65 car. That's fine and dandy if you're using automatic. But if you got a stick, you got to have one that goes straight down on the driver's side because it'll interfere with your clutch linkage. That's coming back. It gets into your clutch linkage. I just didn't happen to have one. And that V8 bell housing bolts down to the cross member. With this kind of system, a little piece of pipe in the center of that bottom one. Yeah, I can get it out. That little piece of pipe.
Yep, I see it.
You put one together, you want to be sure to have the right bolt, good hard bolt.
You're going to have to hold it still. Okay.
Good hard bolt with a lock on it. Goes through that factory bolt. It's kind of pointed on the end where you can get started. This goes on the cross member. That goes through it. And then each side of your bell housing.
Kind of like playing with Tinker Toys.
Now, the flywheels are the same on a 6 as they are on a V8, except for 292. 292 has bigger flywheel bolts, larger diameter, threads. So a 292 flywheel, you can bolt it on that V8, but it'll be loose on there. You can't use 292 flywheel. The V8 flywheels were generally all 11-inch clutches, and 6-cylinders was a smaller diameter. So you can use them, but you'll wear the clutch out, especially with a 350, it won't hold up. But that 11-inch flywheel, they're pretty common. You can find them. And if you wanted to, you can saw off this bottom part of this bell housing. This one's broke right there at that bottom bolt. You can saw that off and use a 2-volt starter that comes from up underneath, like the automatics had. I prefer the 3-volt ones myself. But that's power glide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll walk around here. And I wanted to show you a stick shift frame.
Got a lot of these beautiful flowers back here.
Well, this is a stick shift frame. See, it's got that cross member here. That
Mm-hmm.
bell housing fits right there.
Mm-hmm.
There's your little bracket for your Z-bar to bolt to.
Uh-huh.
And everything. But look at here. See them holes right there?
Right.
They're for that cross member. It came with automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And I have changed them over from stick to automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you grind them rivets off, punch them rivets out, and they make a factory cross member that'll fit and bolt right in there.
Okie dokie.
We probably got 6 or 7 Chevrolet pickups out here, Chevrolet and GMCs, that came with factory automatics.
Mm-hmm.
We even got one that came with a turbo 350, turbo 400, one a 327.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got a story about a Chevrolet truck.
Oh dear.
My daddy, he was a Ford man. He never liked Chevrolets. He started out with Model Ts. Then he had a 36 Ford car, this, that, and other. He had old 42 Ford ton and a half Bob truck one time. He always had Fords. He had a 51 Ford once with a flathead in it, and then he traded that, he sold it and bought a brand new 59 Ford. And he bought, Mama had one time drove a 56 Ford four-door hardtop. He had Trinos in later years and different stuff. Bought a new Ford truck, and it was 95. He bought a new Ford truck. In 66, he bought a new Ford Galaxy 500. But in 64, he happened to buy a brand new 64 Chevrolet truck. 283. 3-speed on the tree. Big back window. Red with a white top. No chrome. White painted front bumper, white painted grill, white painted factory rear bumper.
Uh-huh. And what'd you do to his
Plain
truck?
Jane truck. Well, he was working in Indiana when they was building a new Bethlehem steel mill, that continuous casting mill.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, he was driving a 50 Ford Woody wagon like the old Mod Squad had, only this and the termites that ate all the wood and the salt, Indiana salt that ate the body off. But it was a flathead 3-speed overdrive. And he'd drive that back and forth, that 500-mile trip up there to Gary, Indiana. He'd come home every weekend in it. And it was up in the fall of 64. And he was driving that old Ford. And he got up around Moments, Illinois, and he didn't know it, and his rear end had went to leaking. And he run out of oil in the rear end of that old 50 Ford, and the rear end locked up. And he blowed the transmission up trying to get that thing off the road with a blowed up rear end. So he left it alongside the road. And he stuck his thumb out and he hitchhiked from Moments, Illinois up to Gary, Indiana. And he'd been saving his money up and he wanted to buy a new pickup truck. He made good money up there working on that mill, especially compared to what people made in Arkansas. But he wanted to buy a new truck. So he went to his mom and dad's house, and his little brother was there, and he got the newspapers, and he was looking through the papers, and this was on a Sunday. Anyway, and he was looking through the papers Sunday afternoon, and he seen where Baker Chevrolet in Gary, Indiana had a 64 Chevrolet V8 stick shift for $1,500. So he had told his little brother, he said, Chuck, take me down there to Baker's. He said, I'm going to buy that car. He said, I want the truck, but he said, I got to have something to drive. So he went down there and he walked in there and he had that newspaper and he told me, he said, I'm going to buy this car. And that salesman said, oh, that ain't a car. He said, that's a pickup truck. And my dad said, it is? He said, yeah. He said, well, which one is it? He said, that red and white one out there. And my dad said, well, I'll just buy it. You take cash? Well, yeah. So my dad, he bought that truck $1,500. And the salesman asked him, said, you want to go on test drive? He said, well, why go on test drive? Brand new truck. I ought to drive like a brand new truck. I don't need to drive it. I'm going to buy it. I'm in a hurry. So Dad goes out and he gets in that truck with that salesman. And they talk. Dad gets in it, starts up and drives off. Well, Uncle Chuck sits there, thinks he's going on a test drive. Because he said he's going to buy a car, and here he's driving a truck. And after about an hour and a half, Uncle Chuck says, he didn't come back to that test drive. I think he stole that truck. I'm getting out of here. So Uncle Chuck, he goes home, and there's my dad sitting there at the kitchen table grinning. He bought that truck and drove off. Left Uncle Chuck sitting there. Well, he gave him a brand new truck. He works all week. And he had stuff in Indiana that he was still bringing to Arkansas, and he'd been pulling a trailer with that old car, but he just so happened that trip his trailer was still in Indiana. So he loaded the pickup down for Bear, and he loaded his trailer down, and he takes off. He gets down there on I-57. He's flying along there, and boy, the blue light, the red lights, the big red lights, didn't come with flashing. The Illinois trooper pulls him over. He's speeding. He's arguing I ain't speeding. He said, no. Speed limit for cars is such and such. Speed limit for trucks is 5 miles an hour slower. So he kept getting speeding tickets in that old truck for going above the speed limit in Illinois. He got so many he lost his driver's license. They was holding his driver's license in Illinois till he got his tickets paid up, and he was driving on a ticket. Well, that old truck started using oil. And it never did run just right. He took it back to Baker Chevrolet 2 or 3 times, and they'd tune up on it, and it just wouldn't run right. And he didn't like that Chevrolet. And the heater wasn't good enough to him. It was getting cold weather, everything. So he comes back to Arkansas. He spends the winter in Arkansas, and by the spring, this old truck's blowing blue smoke, using oil. And I'm a little kid then, 65. I was only 14 years old. Well, I could drive. And he decides he's going to buy him a new Ford car. So he goes down and he buys this old Ford car. It's bronze. And it's one that, I'm going to tell the story. It's bronze, and it's one that the U.S. Marshal Service had turned down because the brakes wasn't good enough on it. Sales tax already paid on it. So he buys that Ford car, and he drives it back and forth to Indiana, and he can go 80 miles an hour and pass a cop. They don't even bother him. You can just tell by the way it sits up and the antennas on it. That's a U.S. Marshal car. They ain't gonna bother him. He never got no trouble. So he pretty much give me that old truck. And a neighbor boy talked us into taking it down to this old great mechanic to have it overhauled. And he told me it'd be $150 to overhaul that engine. So we took it down there, and I come back and got it when they said they got done with it. I just walked over there from school and got in it. It was loud. The muffler was split open on it, and this and that. And that motor, it didn't smoke no more, but it didn't run just right. And he charged, when I got the bill, he charged $270. He said the crankshaft was bad, and he had to pull the engine and turn the crank. Why it cost so much more. Well, next day I drive at school, and my agri teacher, his daddy used to be a used car dealer. And at agri, they all want to go see this new overhauled motor. And they were looking at the motor, and some of them boys was older and better mechanic. And they said, Randall, he didn't turn the crank in that motor. That motor's never been out of that truck. And there's something wrong with that engine anyway. It's missing. But that motor, look at all the grease on the motor mounts and bell housing and stuff. That motor's never been pulled out of that truck. You got to pull the motor out, put a crank in it, turn the crank. He ain't turned the crank. He cheated y'all. They looking at the bill and this and that. So, them boys at the agri shop, they're fooling around. And they said, maybe the valve's adjusted too tight. And just like that, they pulled the valve covers off. And I'm learning something here from them older boys and that shop teacher. One of the rocker arms ain't going up and down. This sucker's got a flat cam. That camshaft, the intake's opening, but the exhaust ain't opening. Every time that open, it's putting a dump of raw gas in that cylinder. And a lot of that gas is going past them rings and down into the crankshaft. He told me to put 10,000 under bearings on it. Anyway, so word got around he had two girls going to school, and he heard that, I told him, well, my dad probably just come beat the crap out of him when he comes in. My dad was bigger than him. And he come and he'd give me the $270 back. He just decided to eat that overhaul. Well, I talked my dad into buying a Sears Roebuck 283 short block. And it had the crosshatch hone, and it was bored and all this good stuff, and the Sears guarantee on it. It was bored 60,000. That made it $292. And I put it in that old truck, and I put a 4-barrel on it and dual exhaust on it and all that stuff. And Daddy hated that truck, and I drove it all the time. He pretty much just give it to me. And that short block did real good. It's a pretty good little hot rod. I could blow the doors off them guys with them fast Y-block Fords. Drag race. Of course, it had 410 gears and big mud grip tires on the back. But anyway, we had old buy supply tires back in them days, and I didn't have much money, and I let a tire get too thin. And I was going down the road about 70 miles an hour one morning, flying along there, pretty close to 5 Mile Spring there, and passenger side tire blowed out. And that truck went off the road, and I couldn't get it back up on the road, and I had my brakes on, and I was sliding down there, through there on the green, wet grass, and there was an 18-inch culvert under the driveway. And I tried to put that passenger side front wheel through that 18-inch culvert. And instead, it brought that frame and that tire around right through the floorboards and right up on the seat right next to me. And I broke my nose on the steering wheel and pretty much totaled that truck out. And it broke both manifolds off and shoved that old my engine forward, and it was sitting there running with the 4-barrel almost kicked in. It really loud. I turned the key off. That was the end of Daddy's 64 Chevrolet truck. He never ever bought another Chevrolet again. He always drove Fords from then on. He never did think them Chevrolets was any good after that. But I always liked the Chevrolet better than the Ford. So that's pretty much the story on the 64 Chevrolet truck. I still got parts of it around here. I think there's a door and a fender and stuff off that truck here. So I will say goodbye and good luck to you. Got a little long-winded, but that's okay.
Thank y'all, and please like and subscribe. Bye.